Think about the last time you decided you were finally ready. You open a new tab. Mortgage pre-approval. You start a neat little folder on your desktop. Pay stubs, bank statements, tax returns. You even clean up your transactions like you're expecting guests, and you feel good. Because pre-approval sounds like a green light. Like the bank is about to tell you, yep, you can afford the home you actually want. So you hand over your whole financial life. Every deposit, every debt payment, every random transfer to your savings. You tell yourself it's just paperwork. Just a step. But here's what most people don't realize. That pre-approval isn't just you proving you're responsible. It's also you teaching the lender exactly how far you can be pushed. And once they know your real ceiling, the conversation changes. Even if nobody says it out loud. Let me be clear about something. A mortgage pre-approval isn't a friendly estimate. It's a stress test on you. That moment you just recognized, uploading documents, linking accounts, answering questions. Is the lender building your maximum payment, not your comfortable payment? They're not asking, what home fits your life? They're asking, what's the most this person could pay every month and still qualify? Here's the twist. The rules literally push them in that direction. According to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau's explanation of a qualified mortgage, lenders have to consider and verify your income or assets and your monthly debt, then evaluate your debt-to-income ratio, your monthly debt payments compared to your gross monthly income, and in practice, the industry benchmark you'll constantly see is a total debt-to-income ratio around 43%. Meaning, on paper, your debts can eat up about 43 cents of every dollar you earn before taxes. So when you hand over the full picture, you're not just getting approved. You're revealing your limit. And once your limit is visible, it can shape what loan size gets floated first, what payment gets normalized, and how close to the edge you end up living. And it goes deeper than that. Now zoom out and look at this from the lender's side of the table. A lender isn't rewarded for finding you the safest, calmest payment. They're rewarded for closing a loan that meets guidelines and performs. So in pre-approval, they reverse engineer your top-end number using formulas like DTI. That's debt-to-income ratio, the share of your income that goes to debt each month. If your file supports a higher payment, you'll often be shown a higher ceiling. Take the classic 28/36 rule that Rocket Mortgage explains. Housing costs around 28% of gross monthly income, and total debts around 36%. If you make $8,000 a month gross, that guideline points to about $2,240 for housing and $2,880 for total debt. Notice what that does psychologically. It turns maybe money into available money. Now here's what that can cost you. US Bank gives a concrete example. A $405,000 30-year fixed mortgage at 6.625% creates a principal and interest payment of about $2,594 per month. Over the full 30 years, total payments are roughly $934,000, with about $529,000 of that being interest. So when your pre-approval nudges you toward the maximum house you qualify for, it's not just a bigger home. It's a bigger interest engine running for decades, for you. The move is simple. Decide your payment first, before you ever hear their number. Build your budget around your life, not their limit. Because once you accept their ceiling as normal, you're already negotiating from their frame, and that's where the real pressure starts. And it gets even more delicate when you realize how your full picture can affect pricing. When you apply, your loan doesn't just get approved or denied. It gets priced. Pricing is the interest rate and fees you're offered based on risk. Basically, how expensive it is for them to lend to you. In conventional mortgages, that can include LLPAs, or loan-level price adjustments, risk-based fees that stack on top of each other depending on your profile. Investopedia explains LLPAs are driven by things like credit score and loan-to-value ratio, LTV, meaning how much you're borrowing compared to the home's value. And those adjustments add up. Investopedia notes that if a mortgage triggers 4 adjustments, the combined hit could increase your mortgage cost by 1% or more. Here's what most people don't realize. When you overshare early, you're giving a lender extra angles to frame your file as riskier or more complex. More accounts to source, more transfers to explain, more documentation conditions, and complexity is where delays and extra scrutiny live. Meanwhile, the biggest levers that clearly move pricing are usually simple. your credit tier and your LTV. A blog summarizing Fannie-style pricing shows how wide those tiers can be, giving an example where a borrower around a 750 score might pay about 0.25% in LLPAs, while someone around 690 could pay 2.0% or more. So what does that mean for you today? You don't win by turning pre-approval into a full financial autobiography. You win by controlling the story, clean credit, intentional down payment plan, and only the documents that are required. Because the more stuff they can pick through, the more ways your file can get bumped, conditioned, and priced against you. And if you think that sounds abstract, wait until you see what happens when two buyers with similar incomes take two very different disclosure strategies. You now see the game. Your pre-approval number isn't your budget, and oversharing can change your pricing. Next, you'll hear a simple real-world scenario that makes this painfully obvious. Picture two buyers with the same income, the same credit tier, and the same goal. Get a clean offer on paper before they fall in love with a house. One buyer treats pre-approval like a confession. Every bank account, every side hustle deposit, every gift they might get from family. The lender doesn't just see income, they see extra threads to verify. And every thread becomes a condition. Explain this transfer, document that deposit, prove this money is acceptable. Now the other buyer plays it tighter. Not shady, just precise. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau says a lender is legally required to provide a loan estimate once you give 6 pieces of information: your name, your income, your social security number, so they can pull credit, the property address, an estimate of the property value, and the desired loan amount. And the CFPB is explicit. Lenders can't require additional information beyond that to give you the loan estimate. So this buyer shops lenders using those 6 items. Gets the loan estimate, compares rate, fees, and cash to close. Then, only after choosing the best offer, gives the full documentation the lender needs to finalize. What's the payoff for you? It's leverage and speed. You don't waste days satisfying extra conditions for 3 different lenders. You don't hand out your entire financial life to companies you may never use. And you reduce the odds that a messy paper trail becomes an excuse for delay, repricing, or come back with one more statement. So what do you actually do with all of this without slowing down your home search? Here's exactly what to do. 2 minutes. Before you send a single PDF. Step 1. Pick your number first. Not their number. Choose a monthly payment you can handle on your worst normal month, then back into a home price from that. Step 2. Shop with the 6-item rule. Give a lender only what's needed to trigger a loan estimate: name, income, social security number for credit, property address, estimated value, and loan amount. Get the estimate. Compare. Step 3. Keep your paper trail boring. For 60 to 90 days, avoid big unexplained deposits, random transfers between accounts, and opening new credit. If money has to move, label it and keep a simple note of why. Step 4. Control assets disclosure. Show enough funds for down payment and reserves. Don't volunteer extra accounts that create more questions unless they're required to qualify. Step 5. Delay the deep dive until you choose a winner. After you pick the lender with the best loan estimate, then you provide full documentation fast so underwriting doesn't drag. And if you want the next move that saves real money, watch the video on the 3 fees inside a loan estimate that buyers misread, and how to negotiate them without sounding like an amateur. Subscribe if you want more of the stuff nobody explains until it's too late: simple rules, real paperwork tactics, and clean leverage and financial systems.